Hello historians, welcome to Decoding the Test. Today we're going to take another quick look at World War II. As always, this is not everything I would want you to know about the Second World War. For that, know the details that you see in front of you. Instead, it's a look at where the test has focused again and again and again over the years. So, where has it focused? Really, four areas. Inclusion questions, non-traditional narratives, usually focusing on the role of racial minorities in the Second World War. Also, American entry into the Second World War, Pearl Harbor. Also, technology during the Second World War, mostly the atom bomb. Finally, the one we are going to focus on today, the American home front. And really, this is where the test loves to focus its attention. Not the battles, not the strategy. It loves to focus on what is going on the American home front. And really, there's only a couple of things you really need to know. The first is called rationing. You need to understand what rationing was. You might not actually see the word rationing on the test, but you're going to see what it led to. What is rationing? Well, when you go to war, especially a massive war, all of a sudden there's a lot of material that needs to be sent to soldiers rather than to normal citizens. Now this can include everything from rubber for tires to cotton for clothing to steel, which is being used to make cars. Well, now it's going to be used to make tanks, so we're not going to be selling new cars. It could be used for something as simple as fresh vegetables. Everything grown on American farms is going to be sent to the soldiers first. We're not going to have them in local groceries. Or, if we do have these things, you will have them rationed, which means every American, instead of being able to buy as much as they want, give me like 7,000 heads of lettuce, well, now you have a little ration book issued by the government, and you are only allowed a certain number of heads of lettuce. That is rationing. So you need to understand rationing. And this question that you see in front of you is a rationing question. You've got this article from the New York Times. It's actually kind of funny. It's from 1945, which should clue you in to that this is from World War II. And it's talking about the women of America being one step closer to having nylon stockings. And you're going, nylon stockings? I don't remember talking about pantyhose. Nylon stockings. Nylon was one of the things that was rationed. So what this article is talking about rationing. Well, why does rationing exist? Let's look at the question. The question says, this excerpt suggests that U.S. consumers were affected by what? The answer choice is G, continued supply shortages after World War II. That's the answer choice that we're looking for here, is that World War II has caused rationing, and there's a supply shortage of these things that we usually could have. Now, rationing also plays a part in needs. Now, you almost always see these with a poster picture. You might be asked about victory gardens, and here are the two poster pictures I've seen. War gardens, victory gardens. I love the tagline, our food is fighting. I would love to hear that in a trailer for a Michael Bay Transformers movie. Optimus Prime versus lettuce. The question is always the same. It's what's the purpose of this program? The purpose of this program is to increase food supply during a farm labor shortage. Okay, why? Well, one, you've got rationing, so most fresh produce is being sent to soldiers. Two, you've got most of the people that were working on farm have now become soldiers. So you've got less people working on farms, which means that there's less food being produced, and the food that's being produced is being sent to soldiers. So victory gardens was kind of a thing that you could either take your ration book and get your one head of lettuce, or you could grow a garden in your own backyard, and that way you could help the war effort because you were eating out of your own garden, and that saved all the food from farms for soldiers. That's what a victory garden's purpose was. Answer choice J. And finally, you notice that the people represented in those posters were females. On the American home front, females were taking a lot of the jobs that had been filled by men traditionally, but the men were fighting, so females were stepping up. And so you see two posters here. One is about the U.S. Nursing Corps, and one is a lady working on what looks to be a very large plane engine. And it's asking, this 1944 poster was produced most likely in response to what? Well, the answer is growing demand for personnel to support the war effort. We needed people. Men were all fighting. Women had to fill non-traditional jobs. And then this would actually kind of kick off the women's movement a little bit. The fact that they were really fulfilling a role that previous to the war men had, kind of kept them out of, but they were doing it well. You also see a color poster here. This is Rosie the Riveter. I haven't seen her show up on the test, but she is the most famous poster girl for this movement. So I wanted to show her to you just in case you saw her on the test. So on the home front, what kind of questions you're going to get? You need to understand rationing. You need to understand Victory Gardens and its attachment to both rationing and the fact that the men were all fighting a war. And you need to understand the role females played in stepping up to support the war effort, especially in industries. If you understand those three things, you should be able to get this major portion of the test A-OK. If there's no questions, comments, or screams of angst, I'll see you in another video.